Thank you very much.
Thanks to have you here.
No, it's exciting to be here.
The stage is yours.
Thank you. Plummer's asked me to come to Webit about 2 or 3 times now, so I'm very excited that I'm finally actually able to join. The other thing that's exciting, I get to do sort of the fun part of Programmatic, which is about something that I believe in very passionately, obviously, given that Xaxis is part of WPP, which is that I feel that technology is massively increasing the intersection between creativity and media. We've come from a world where the workflows between creative and media were very linear, and I think the technology has a huge role to play in bringing those 2 things back together again. So that's what I want to talk today a little bit, is how does technology, how does programmatic help with that transformation in our industry? Okay. Is there the green button in the middle? Guys, have the next slide, please. Does it work that way? Perfect, okay. Very briefly about Xaxis. We're a company that works with data and technology to reach audiences. So we think of ourselves as an audience business, so everything we do is really about audiences. If I can have the next slide, please. Thank you very much. This is going to be very tedious because I have a lot of slides. Very briefly, and I don't want to talk much about our business, but just to give you a sense of the size of our company, the number that I'm particularly proud of, the big one, the number that I'm particularly proud of is 2,700 clients, which means the reason we have that many clients is because we're a very local business. So Xaxis is now in 43 countries with 50 offices. We have an office here in Turkey as well that we're very proud of, and we work with many local clients. So how is technology changing our industry? When I first started in media, the most important piece of technology that we used to use was this thing, a fax machine. And the joke used to be, if you want to find someone who knows how to use a fax machine, go and talk to a media agency. And we're literally the last people in the world that still use this technology. And then suddenly, almost overnight, it seemed that technology stopped being about fax machines and started being about data centers. It started being about programmatic. And so what is this thing, programmatic? We've talked a lot today about programmatic. It's one of those words which I think is very new, and so everybody still has an opportunity to sort of attach their own sort of meaning to what it actually is. For me, programmatic is a very simple thing. It's purely the application of some sort of an algorithm or a method or a program to the decision-making of when to serve an ad. So if we're going to use an algorithm to make that decision for us, we need to base that decision on something. And of course, the ultimate benefit here is that 3 different people on the same website at the same time see different ads. So how is that possible? Well, that algorithm needs to make the decision based on some sort of an input. And of course, that input we all know is data. We've talked a lot today about data. Every session I've been in today has talked about, forget the technology, it's really about the data. And I couldn't agree with that more. I think the chap from IP on Web also had a very interesting point to make, which I also agree with, which is that data is not a static thing. It's not like you just have data and your job here is done. It's a very dynamic thing. And the way that we talk to our clients about this and the way that we see this data ecosystem working is a little bit like a sort of a dam. Okay, everybody has CRM data. At least I hope if you're a brand, you have CRM data, and you probably use that CRM data very effectively for customer engagement. Right? You know a lot about your customers, you're talking to your customers, you're engaging with your customers, you're creating the most positive possible experience for the people who already know about your brand and are already engaging with you. But the problem is, if that's all you're doing, if all you're doing is using and talking to your existing customer base, you're never going to grow your brand. You're very quickly going to run out of data. So the first point, in terms of where the conversation with the creative side of our industry comes, is it's not just about the data piece. It's not just about the targeting of people who you already know something about. This piece at the top, the advertising, the sponsorship, the content, whatever you want to put in there, the creativity, the creative executions that drive some sort of moment of serendipity, that create this moment where someone's discovering something that they didn't know they needed to know yet. They've discovered something new. They haven't become a data point yet. It's so important to continue to replenish the data points. So, another way of thinking about this is every time you have an interaction like that with a customer who you don't have yet, it's a new data point. And every time you create one of those data points, it fills up this well of data that you have, initially for remarketing, re-engagement, behavioral targeting, however you might be doing that. And then, of course, ultimately, it replenishes your CRM database so you can continue to build that relationship with your customers. So this ecosystem of data is very, very important. And actually, I can see the day coming where a brief to a creative agency isn't drive my brand metrics, but actually is, I know that this particular type of data responds particularly well for my business. High sales, low turnover, high basket value, whatever it might be. I want you to create me an ad that brings in more people like that. I want you to create me an ad that puts the idea into people's heads that they should engage with my brand. And the people I want are those people. And this is how I'm going to define those people, is based on the data that I know works at the bottom. Okay? So data becomes the currency in this ecosystem of how media and creative work together. The next thing is, how do we apply creativity to the actual data itself? So in our data management platform, Turbine, we have, of course, lots of demographic segments. We have hundreds of interest segments, and that's all well and good. That's fine. They're good segments. They work very well. But the interesting thing is when you apply creativity to something like a lookalike algorithm. So very briefly, for those who don't know how a lookalike algorithm works, within our 3,000 attributes that we collect for our audiences, we have the total audience. If we can bring in some sort of a seed data, that might be a very small audience of, say, 3,000 people, and we then find more people like them. Okay, so create a bigger audience based on the seed data that we've collected. So what? So where's the creativity in that? Well, actually, there's a huge amount of creativity that can be applied to what that seed data actually is, right? Because that seed data can be anything. And a couple of examples, look, an obvious one is CRM, right? We've already talked about it. An obvious type of seed data is your existing customers, people that high roaming customers if you're a mobile company, or high basket value, or if you're a retailer, or people who buy high-spec cars if you're an automotive company. So that's fine. Demographics is another one, of course, but actually, we've had clients come to us, and we've had partners come to us, and our own teams come up with really interesting uses of seed data. One client came to us and he said, which is something we do now all the time for our clients, they said to us, look, we have a market segmentation study. Happy Harry, Sad Sally, Miserable Mike. We've spent a lot of money on that market segmentation study. We have a lot of depth in that market segmentation study. We know a lot about Happy Harry and Sad Sally. We know that Happy Harry likes to go to the cinema, that Sad Sally likes to text her friends, and there's a huge amount of depth in the analysis that goes into creating these segmentation studies. The problem is when I take that to my media agency, it often gets lost. Happy Harry becomes male 25 to 35. Sad Sally becomes female 30 to 40. I'm being slightly oversimplistic here, but the opportunity with technology is, of course, to take that segment, create an online survey, cookie those users, use that as seed data, and then segment the entire database by that client's market segmentation, which is what we did. So we're able to literally segment our entire data platform by the client's original marketing segmentation. We're now talking to our research and insight agencies about actually putting that into every single market segmentation study that they do. Right? So when you use one of our WPP agencies, automatically you have the Turbine database segmented so that you can target media against it, making those insights actionable in media for the first time. Another really interesting and creative use of seed data is TV viewing habits. So our Italian team, which is something we're now rolling out into most of our markets, our Italian team came up with this great idea, which was, let's look at the light TV viewing habits using panel data, or the media habits of light TV viewers using panel data. Okay? Again, we ran an online survey, and then we used that data as seed data, and we've now been able to segment our data management platform into light TV viewers and heavy TV viewers based on all their other media behavior. It's an incredibly powerful thing because we can now, for our TV buyers within Group M and the agencies, they can now target video only at light TV viewers or heavy TV viewers, depending if they want to increase reach or frequency. So again, even though it's a relatively basic point, the application of a creative mindset to how data is used is very, very important. The third area is other data. So not audience data, but other data. There is so much data that exists around us all the time. You know, how do we apply creativity to that kind of data? And that data takes many forms. It can be weather data, you know, targeting ads only for hay fever medication only when the pollen count is high. You know, or selling ice creams when it's hot is an obvious one. I'll come back to TV Sync. Sports data, sports scores, or the change in betting odds, you know, spikes in search volume. But one of the really interesting ones, and I want to show you a video for this, is a product we have called TV Sync. This is a product that came out of innovation in our Dutch team, where we only run an ad when our client's TV ad is showing. Okay, so we buy every single Wi-Fi connected device for 60 seconds while the client's ad is on TV and create that second screen experience. So our Dubai team said, okay, well, you know, they had a client who actually doesn't have much TV spend. And so they used creativity to think about how they could use this product, this capability, for a client that doesn't actually have much TV spend. I'm going to show a quick video, which is the resulting campaign, which was shortlisted in Cannes and won an award at the Dubai Links Awards. And I think it's a very creative use of that same technology.
Sony Mobile was launching its new Z3, a high-end handset packed full of best-in-class features. However, awareness as a premium smartphone was low, and there were two big obstacles. Both Samsung and Apple were releasing their own upgrades, and Sony fell way behind them on brand preference. We knew that if we went head-to-head with them on features, we could give audiences a positive reason to connect with Sony. But with Samsung outspending Sony 6-1 and Apple's support from networks, creating visibility by piggybacking on their launches would be tough. So what if we hijacked them by turning the strength of their ad spends into an advantage to showcase the Z3's superior product offering? We created a regional first by deploying pioneering technology, allowing Sony Creative to be served simultaneously across screens, each time a competitor's TVC was broadcast. It worked by tapping into people's meerkatting behavior of watching TV and shifting their attention from the set to their devices. The process begins by recording audio from the competitors' TVCs, forming a digital code that could be detected by technology monitoring broadcasts of satellite TV. When the code is identified, it triggers programmatic buying software to serve Sony ads and content across mobile, laptop, and tablet in targeted residential areas within 3 seconds. At a time when Sony's two biggest rivals were outspending and outbranding us, we found a truly innovative way of using their launches to our advantage. By cost-efficiently building visibility and a comparative context for the Z3 to shine, we've succeeded in boosting Sony's two key metrics. Awareness of Sony as a premium smartphone increased by 15%, and our second screen execution has contributed to a 28% improvement in brand preference.
So a very interesting use of that technology, and those results are real because they weren't running any other media. Right? Those results were generated purely by running digital ads while their competitors' ads were on TV. The last area of creativity is, of course, the creative itself. Right? And increasingly, we're having conversations with our creative agencies about how we can actually use the data that we have to put ads together in real time. Okay, so this is not about dynamic creative optimization where we're sort of, doing slightly more advanced versions of A/B testing, but this is actually about data-driven creative, right? So actually putting the creative unit together based on all the data we have. And I want to show you an example, which is a mock-up. It's a slightly extreme example, but it's one that makes the point. So it's for a hypothetical travel company called When in Rome. And you can see that, a normal banner ad might have looked like this. Your adventure awaits. We're not really sure what you're interested in, but, let's just put up some different pictures of holidays and hopefully you'll click. What we can do today is we can take a template, right? So we know that the audience is of interest. We know the audience is male, so let's put a picture of a male in there. Actually, we know that the person's married, so actually the asset will be a couple. We know the person's interested in art and design, so we have this sort of slightly funky sort of change in color. And then we can look at the things that we know from Turbine that person is interested in. In this case, we know they're interested in biking, we know they're interested in hiking and surfing. So the assets, the creative that we're putting into the template reflect the interests that we know the audience has. Okay, we're now starting to think we know which holiday we want to put in front of them because we know they're interested in surfing, we know they're interested in adventure, so New Zealand is a perfect location for this guy. So let's put in the live surf report from New Zealand, let's pull in a weather feed. We know he's interested in social, so we'll put on a Twitter thing, and then obviously, a copy adventure awaits in New Zealand. And so this ad, no two people will ever see the same ad because no two people are the same. So this is creating a completely customized, content-driven experience for someone based on all the data we have about them, which fundamentally changes the experience of the advertising. And I believe very passionately, and I think what SourcePoint are doing is really great around, and I agree with them, around creating a better experience from advertising, a more useful, more relevant, more tailored experience around advertising is so very important. And of course, one of the reasons we're so focused on this within WPP is because, and I come back to this point about, technology, which is, this whole programmatic space is enabling us to bring together the insight, the creative, and the media in ways that have never been done before. And my boss, Sir Martin Sorrell, he's always talking about horizontality, but it's actually with technology that we're able to make that happen. Thank you very much.